At 5 years old, I would drink coffee milk with my grandfather. Now, coffee milk was maybe a quarter to a third coffee and about 2/3 milk that my grandfather would heat up in a saucepan so that he'd have hot milk and coffee together. And of course I'd put sugar in it. And so I would drink coffee milk and my grandpa would drink coffee, and I could have 2 or 3 cups of coffee milk with him. And it made me feel so grown up and so important to be drinking coffee with my grandpa, even though mine was coffee milk. As I got older, I still drank coffee with my grandfather. Eventually, when I went to high school, I worked at McDonald's, as I've mentioned, and I was an opener and a closer. Very often I would close Friday night and then open Saturday morning, or I would close Thursday night, have Friday off, and then I would open Saturday and Sunday morning. And so I was usually a weekend opener. Later, when I got a little bit older, instead of working at McDonald's, I would work at I worked as a construction worker putting in swimming pools for Creative Pools and Spas. When I was an opener for McDonald's, I would have to go into work about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and some mornings I would wake up a little early and go over and have a quick cup of coffee before I went to work. I'd go have a quick cup of coffee with my grandfather. Now that was 20 minutes the opposite way, which meant I'd have to wake up an hour earlier than I needed, but I used to do that once in a while just because I like to have coffee with my grandfather. Once I was working for Bob for Creative Pools and Spas, I didn't have to be to work until 6, and so it became a lot easier for me to get up and go have coffee with my grandpa, and I did it a couple of times a week, every week when I was working at pool construction. And of course, every time I would come home on summer vacation once I was in college, I would try to make it over to have coffee milk, or well, by now it's just sweet coffee, with my grandfather at least once or twice during all the vacations. I don't know exactly what we said during those times. I don't remember any of the discussions or conversations being especially ground-shattering or earth-shaking. What I do remember is just how calm and centered I felt for the rest of the day afterward, and just how the world looked different after having coffee with my grandfather in the morning. He really had huge influences on me. He was my hero in many ways. His ability to control his temper was the role model that I followed, or I tried to follow, to control my temper. He certainly had a way with storytelling, and I do my utmost to tell a decent story. Now, I've had other inspiration to make me want to be a good storyteller even more than that, but I try to think of my grandfather in the way he told stories when I'm called upon to do the same. My grandfather was also very, very quick-witted, sarcastic and funny, but gentle in his sarcasm, if you can understand that. He would be sarcastic, but he would be sarcastic about situations, not about people. He was very gentle with people, very kind to people, and usually he'd make himself the butt of the jokes rather than the other person. With few exceptions. He sometimes ripped on my grandmother, but whenever he did, she always had a comeback, almost like it was scripted. Like he would say something and then she would get the last word in, and I'm pretty sure in their years of marriage that it did become a script. He would get his little digs in, and then she'd get the last word and one-up him, but he still got his digs in. One of the times when I was in high school, not one of the times, all of the time when I was in high school, once I was old enough to drive myself to school, and I was going to Monroe Catholic Central, which was the high school I attended, I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get myself ready and get myself into school. And my mother was working at the time, father was working, and so although my mother would still be in the house, I had to get up on my own, and rather than having an alarm clock, my grandfather called me every morning at 6 a.m. and the phone would ring once. There was a telephone in my bedroom, and I would jump up and answer the phone, and he'd wish me a good morning, tell me have a good day, and tell me he loved me. And I woke up to that every morning for a couple of years in high school. One of the mornings, there's a Calvin and Hobbes cartoon, and I'm sure you've probably read it and you'll recognize it as soon as I tell you what happened. But one of the mornings, after having read the Calvin and Hobbes cartoon, I decided to try it. And so my grandfather called me, and instead of picking up the phone and saying hello, I picked up the phone and said, "Hi, I'd like to order a large cheese, pepperoni, and mushroom pizza." And without missing a beat, my grandfather said, "Okay, will that be regular or deep dish?" And I said, "Deep dish." He said, "Would that be square or round?" I said that would be a square pizza. And he said, "Will that be pickup or delivery?" And I said, "That'll be delivery." He says, "Okay, that'll be 25 minutes total. Your total is $19.97. Thank you for calling." And he hung up. And that was it. He hung up on me. So I called him back immediately, and he said, "I can't talk now. I'm busy making a pizza." And he put down the phone again. And so, of course, the next time I went over to have coffee with him in the morning, I asked him about it. I said, I was trying to catch you out. I was trying to surprise you, but, I didn't have a chance of it, did I? He's like, "Well, I don't know. I was, you ordered the pizza, so I was busy making the pizza. I had to bring it out to you." He said, "When you called me back and told me you were just joking, I had to wipe the flour off my hands and toss the dough in the fridge, because, you have to get those pizzas out right away, because if they're not fresh and if they're not done just right, people don't call back and order more." And he was just like that. He could take whatever information you gave him at the moment, and he would just flow with it. Whatever joke, whatever story you were telling, he would go in a similar vein. Same thing with my mother. I could start a story, claim that she had done something outrageous, and instead of saying, "What? No, I never did that," her response was always to play along with it and to talk about how I had done something even more outrageous and therefore deserved whatever outrageous treatment I was claiming she had given me. So it was something that had passed, from my grandfather to my mother and to me. So I got it from both of them. As I think I pointed out, my grandfather gave me this ring. My grandfather also gave me a pair of boots and a pocket knife. The pair of boots and the pocket knife I keep in safe storage back in Michigan in my Foot Locker, which my grandfather also gave me. It was an ammo box from when he was in the war, when he was on board ship in World War II. He was a cook in the Navy, but he was a cook on a battleship that actually saw some action, and Grandpa got the Purple Heart because he was wounded in action. I guess a torpedo exploded near the ship, didn't actually hit the ship, but it did some damage to the ship, including causing a steam pipe to burst, and Grandpa was near the steam pipe and was burned by it, and so he received the Purple Heart for that injury. But I've got this big 50-pound metal ammo box that I use as my Foot Locker, and I keep most of my treasured items in it. The boots that he gave me, the pocket knife that he gave me, the Foot Locker itself, and I also have a large ceramic panther. It's wider than the screen will allow here. The ceramic panther was something I made him when I guess I was 6 or 7. My mother was taking some ceramics classes, and so she brought home this big panther for me to paint, and I painted it all black, and we got it fired and shellacked, and so it's this big solid black ceramic panther. But when I gave it to him, he put it prominently out and actually put it right on his windowsill that he looked out every morning, and he kept it there from the time I was like 6 years old until he passed away. Actually, Grandma kept it there afterwards, and after they both passed away, I took it myself, and I've still got it to remember where it was on the windowsill when he'd look out the window. Looks like my time is up, and so 20 minutes talking about Grandpa Barker. I love you, Cheyenne. Have a wonderful day.